One decree. One day, an entire people marked for death. In the shadows of the Persian palace, a secret queen rises. With everything on the line, her crown, her life, her people, Esther must choose silence or courage. And her choice will change history forever. Esther's journey began far from the throne. She was a Jewish orphan named Hadassah, raised by her cousin Mordecai in the city of Susa within the vast Persian Empire. At this time, King Xerxes ruled Persia, one of the most powerful empires in the world. After a dramatic fallout with Queen Vashti, Xerxes ordered a search for a new queen. Young women from across the empire were taken into the palace for months of beauty treatments before being presented to the king. Esther was among them. Though she had no royal status, her beauty, kindness, and grace caught the king's eye. He placed a crown on her head and declared her queen of Persia. She hid her Jewish identity, just as Mordecai advised. What seemed like chance was really preparation. God was placing Esther exactly where he needed her to be. In the king's court was a powerful man named Haman, proud and arrogant. He demanded respect from everyone. But Mordecai, Esther's cousin, refused to bow to him. He would bow only to God. Haman's pride turned to fury. When he discovered Mordecai was Jewish, he plotted something far greater than revenge against one man. He sought to annihilate the entire Jewish people. Haman convinced the king to issue a decree. On one appointed day, all Jews across the empire could be destroyed. Persian law could not be revoked. The date was sealed. The future of God's people was in jeopardy. When Mordecai learned of the decree, he tore his clothes, fasted, and mourned. He sent word to Esther, urging her to go before the king and plead for her people. Mordecai's reply was bold and unforgettable. Do not think that because you are in the palace you alone will escape. If you remain silent, deliverance will come from another place, but you and your family will perish. Who knows if you were placed in the kingdom for such a time as this? Those words lit a fire in Esther's heart. She realized her crown was not for luxury. It was for destiny. Esther responded with courage. Go, gather all the Jews in Susa. Fast for me for 3 days. I and my maids will do the same. Then I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. On the 3rd day, Esther dressed in her royal robes and approached the throne. The room held its breath. Would the king be angered? The king looked up, saw Esther, and extended his golden scepter. She was spared. God was already at work. When the king asked what she desired, Esther didn't reveal her plan immediately. Instead, with wisdom and patience, she invited the king and Haman to a banquet. At the banquet, she invited them again for the next day. Meanwhile, Haman's hatred grew. He built a gallows to have Mordecai executed. But that very night, the king couldn't sleep. He ordered the royal records to be read and discovered Mordecai had once saved his life, yet had never been honored. The next morning, the king asked Haman, what should be done for the man the king delights to honor? Thinking the king meant him, Haman suggested a grand parade in royal robes. To his horror, the king commanded him to honor Mordecai in exactly that way. Haman's pride was shattered. At the second banquet, the king asked Esther again for her request. This time, Esther revealed her identity and the truth. My people and I have been sold to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated. Who would dare do such a thing? The king demanded to know. Esther pointed. The adversary and enemy is this vile Haman. The king, enraged, ordered Haman executed on the very gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. Justice was swift, but the decree still stood. Persian law could not be revoked. Esther and Mordecai pleaded with the king. So a new decree was issued. The Jews were allowed to defend themselves on the appointed day. When the day came, the Jews stood together and defeated their enemies. What had been planned as a day of death became a day of victory. Mordecai was elevated to a high position in the kingdom, and the festival of Purim was established, a yearly celebration of God's deliverance through Esther's courage. Esther's story is unlike many others in the Bible. There are no miracles of fire, no parted seas, no voice from heaven. Instead, God worked quietly, through the courage of a young woman who chose to speak when silence would have been safer. She risked her life, her crown, and her comfort. She showed us that courage is not the absence of fear. It is standing firm even when fear surrounds you. Esther reminds us that God positions us in families, jobs, and moments in history for a purpose. Sometimes we are exactly where we are not by chance, but for such a time as this.